Welcome back to another episode of the Chaotic Pubcast. I'm your host Z. I'm joined by the great Mr. J. How you doing, Jay?
So, I'm doing all right.
And the nice. And the average Ryan Damask. How you doing?
Yeah, below average.
Below
I'm doing okay.
Awesome. So we almost didn't record this tonight because we all got back into Rust today. We saw Ryan playing it, then I'm at work, and then I see Jay playing it, and then I see all of you guys having fun without me while I was at work all day, and then we all played, and then we started doing that musing of like, do we need to record tonight? Do we need to? But no, we're being responsible and doing this episode. So I want to be here and record with you guys, is what I'm saying.
I do too.
It's not that
I'm
I
excited
don't
for
want
this
to be.
episode, but I was having a lot of fun punching trees and shit.
I was having fun trying to. What's that, Jay?
No, go ahead.
I was having fun stealing trying to steal Ryan's spark plugs out of his car.
I was having fun building my house.
So anything new with you guys since we last recorded? This is kind of a weird recording because we recorded right after Doctor Strange launched, and then like 1 or 2 days later, here we are recording. Yeah, 2 days ago. Yeah.
So no, not much has really changed besides Rust. We're just playing Rust now.
Yeah. Ryan, anything on your end?
Not really. I had 5 stray dogs show up at my house, and they're piled on top of my actual 3 dogs now, and so it just looks like I'm running a pet shelter over here.
Wait, so do you still have the dogs at your place?
Yeah, all the shelters and stuff and places like that around here are all at capacity, and so it's either like take them to the pound where they're at capacity, so you already know what's next.
Yeah.
Or I just like foster them for a little bit until I can find them a home.
Or find the owners. Like just they were running in a pack.
We posted everywhere, called everyone, and like not to go into this forever, but the puppies act like it's one big dog and then like 4 puppies, and the puppies act like they've never been around a human a day in their life, and they're all like really ratty. They've been on their own for a while.
Wow. So you might just be an 8-dog owner now.
No.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man.
Foster parent.
Yeah. Parent.
But anyway, that's been my last few days.
Shit, dude. I thought you were you got them back in the well, I commend you for not taking them to the pound because we know what happens there. And
we're big softies for animals.
Sure, man.
Same here, man. Same here. Jay, you don't have any dogs in your life right now, do you?
No, I do not.
Where are your dogs?
Well, I would probably take one off your hands if I could, but
if I wasn't in a 2-bedroom apartment, then I would totally do it, you know, but I would drive my ass out to Texas to get one, but
I just want to say, Jay, just because
Arkansas,
I'm afraid Z won't. That's a dope ass shirt, man.
Oh, thanks.
Wait,
it's a really nice shirt.
The guy who claims to not know anything about Star Wars is the one wearing the Star Wars shirt.
He knows enough.
Yeah, he knows enough.
But he doesn't know.
Yeah, I know who Darth
doesn't know
Vader
Japanese
is.
either.
I know what a lightsaber is.
You know the spoiler, right? That he's somebody's father, right?
What?
This isn't a Star Wars episode.
What?
No, that'll segue. We don't have any news today, do we?
Nope, we just filled it in with the comment about my shirt.
Yeah, there we go. We're gonna hop into it. So today we're talking. We're doing another. This isn't even an urban legend. This is an unsolved mystery that we're doing, which I almost feel like is a rite of passage if you own or if you produce any kind of podcast or YouTube channel or anything. We're talking about DB Cooper. You guys have mentioned that you don't know anything about DB Cooper or who he is or what he did. You kind of mentioned you heard about him, and then of course to talk about our quintessential our token Marvel mention, they referenced him in Loki. Loki was DB Cooper the whole time.
So this isn't a Chris Chan episode?
No, we are not. Oh my god, I went down that rabbit hole, and I'm like, we need like 5 episodes for this gal. There's too much going on. There's too many things. You can have one. It's like How I Met Your Mother. You can have one thing and one thing only. It's too many things.
Damn.
But I'll do a quick rundown of DB Cooper. So Dan Cooper, public knew him as DB Cooper. I do not know what the B stands for. He is a gentleman who took a short flight from Portland to Seattle. I believe it was on Northwest Airlines. And he hijacked the plane by handing the flight attendant a note saying, I have a bomb. Bring this to the pilot. They landed in Seattle, refueled the plane, delivered the $200,000 that he demanded for ransom, which today equals out to about 1.3, 1.4 million roughly. Takes off. Her, according to the story, at about 8 p.m. while they're in the air on the way to Mexico with this flight, he tells all the staff to go into the cockpit, and then he takes the money and a parachute, jumps out of the plane, fucking disappears. And the FBI has been looking for this guy for 50 years. And you have to understand, jumping out of a commercial airliner at
There's
below
no
freezing
parachute?
temperatures. He had a parachute. No,
Okay.
he sprouted wings, Jay.
I don't know, man.
No, you're right. No, it was below freezing temperature. They were going almost 200 miles an hour when he jumped out of the plane, and disappeared into the rainy night. On top of that, it was raining. So we're talking about him mainly because A, it's unsolved, and B, I kind of want to hear a little bit of speculation on, did he survive or did he not survive? Has kind of been my main question.
I have just one question right off the bat. And this is true? Is this a true story? Like this actually happened, or
This is
okay?
Yeah, FBI is like
So if I look up
still
on the FBI
investigating.
like open cases, I
Yes.
guess I'll find BD Cooper. Okay.
Yeah. If you Google, like, I actually have the FBI, the official FBI site, like up right now
Wow,
with
okay.
some of the stuff. So
FBI is like, DB Cooper hijacked this plane in the sky with a box of bombs.
with a box of
Jesus
bombs.
Christ.
But he was dressed like he was in a suit. He had sunglasses on, smoking cigarettes, drinking bourbon and sodas. Very James Bond-esque. And he actually became quite almost like a folk hero. There's like a holiday in some towns celebrating the day the heist happened, and he got away. Now, there have been a few false confessions, an endless list of suspects. I watched an entire documentary about this one guy who's not even brought up on any main public list, about a possible flight attendant that could have been him, but it's kind of hard to find exactly that person. I think it was like, I can't remember his name, but there's an entire like hour documentary about it. So the story, the main question is like, how down in the dumps do you have to be to come up with this overly elaborate plan? And he obviously, I feel like he knew what he was doing.
Apparently, it was a good plan.
It worked. Yeah. So they claim that he had military experience, or the FBI doesn't think he had military experience, but he did know a lot about planes. He kept the plane under 10,000 feet for jumping purposes. He had it going under, he had the flaps adjusted to 15 degrees to make sure the plane was going slower. And he requested 4 different parachutes and took 2 of them and jumped out of a fucking plane. So what do you guys think? First off, the first question, do you think he survived?
I hope so.
Yes, because they did say that they found a small portion of the ransom money along the Columbia River, like 5 years later. Or sorry, like 9 years later.
9 years later, jeez.
Yeah, and so unless he just like fell through someone's roof with the money, and they were just like, hallelujah. And they just took the money and buried the body.
Well, and they found
like a little girl just praying in her room. It's just like, our family's so poor, please send us money. And this guy just crashes through with his parachute and $200,000. Thanks, God.
The guy who or the person who found it, it wasn't like an FBI, the money. It was an 8-year-old kid who found it. This bag full, he found a bag full of almost $6,000 as an 8-year-old kid on the beach. Obviously, the money was clearly was incredibly decomposed, but like, half of the money went to like an insurance company, and that kid kept some of the money. And then at 10 or 12 years later, etc., he ends up selling some of the decomposed bills, and I think he sold like 15 bills in total for about $65,000 or $34,000 or something like that. So
Jeez.
yeah.
Goodness.
Now, this flight attendant, the supposed flight attendant that people suspect, or this supposed former Northwest employee that people suspected was DB Cooper. The documentary that I watched and the research I've done on him, I feel like if there was a suspect, he was my main go at it, or like my prime suspect, because it just didn't add up. Like some of the stuff that they brought up is this gentleman wasn't particularly wealthy at the time, and then 6 months after the hijack happened, he happened to have 180 something thousand dollars in his bank account. He bought a house. He was giving away like $5,000 to here and there to relatives. So he had some very suspicious activity. Then after he bought that house, a few investigators checked the house out. They did a thermal reading on the house, found a gap in the wall, and they found a place where you could like hide something in the ceiling of the attic. Super sus stuff. So what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, did he do anything before? Like, did they know what he did for a living before this happened?
This guy is an enigma. Like
that's odd.
yeah. Like he's 100. They have no idea where he came from, who he was. And then another piece of information is at the time there was a comic book with a comic book released with about a hero named Dan Cooper that was released around the same time with a skydiver on it.
Wow.
This was released before the initial heist happened. I personally think I'm on the side that I think he died. Like, quite frankly, like
he didn't survive
yeah.
the landing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
and because didn't they say it was like really dangerous conditions in it? Like it was rainy and dark.
Were they over
and
water, or were
he
they?
didn't have a lot of equipment. They said he was over wilderness, I believe. Like it was over just like a big stretch of wilderness. And then in all this time, they've never seen any of that cash show up besides what that little boy found. So I mean, yeah, it definitely sounds like he just died and they just haven't found him.
Yeah, and they scanned.
Or they did, and they locked him up with the giant of Kandahar.
Yeah, seriously, with the Polybius arcade box.
Yeah,
they're both playing Polybius together at this point.
That sounds probably more of what could have actually happened. Like he just died, and then whoever found him, I don't know if they knew who he was or not, and they just decided to bury him. It sounds like they might have known who he was, and they just buried him and kept the money.
Yeah. And the feds all the money was he demanded the money in $20 bills, $200,000 in cash, and of course the feds scanned all the money and all the serial numbers, and then publicly put the serial numbers out in case anybody was paying attention to it.
Yeah, and that money was never spent.
So explain this to me. So this was like 71, right?
Yeah.
They like wired the money to him or something?
No, he landed the plane. So when he initially, the flight was from Portland to Seattle. He handed the note saying he was a bomb, listed his demands. They landed in Seattle. He let the passengers off. A majority of them who didn't even know they were being hijacked, because that's how discreet he was.
Oh.
Then within about 2 hours, they provided the money, the parachutes, and by then there were only 5 people on the plane: 2 pilots, 2 flight attendants, and a flight engineer.
I cannot believe they let that plane fly off. That's just nuts.
Yeah. Like I mean, this was the Wild West. This is the fucking 70s. There was no regulations.
Yeah.
There was no nothing. Like it was the president of Northwest Airlines. He just greenlit it. He's like, I don't want any property damage. I don't want people getting hurt. He's just like, here's $200,000, and gave it to him. And he's like, peace, and flew off.
That's crazy.
Let's see. I got of the things that some of the things that was left behind was a clip-on tie that he wore that was left on the plane. 8 smoked cigarettes, which mysteriously the butts disappeared, which I suspect was through user error or human error.
Yeah.
The unused parachutes he requested, And then, of course, then they found the decomposed money that that was found about 9 or 10 years later. And there's been a whole bunch of false confessions um, from multiple people claiming that I did this, or people dying on their deathbed, and that just convolutes everything.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand the motivation as to why somebody would falsely claim, unless they wanted to make their mark in history with no consequences about
Maybe,
lying.
yeah, maybe like just wanted a badass way to go out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Maybe he was this guy who just got diagnosed with cancer, like terminal cancer or something, and was about to have his last day. He's like, I just want to do something really badass, like hijack a plane in the air, get some money, and jump into the woods.
well, what do you think about the people who are falsely claiming that they're deep? Like people like that. It's
I mean, people do that for everything, though, right? Like if you have like a mass murder go out, like there will be like a line of people that line up and it's like, I'm that guy because they just want that notoriety.
yeah,
Like people are stupid. Like, we discussed that 100 times on this podcast, but in those cases especially, right? Like
yeah. It's
so
interesting.
the FBI agents found tons of his fingerprints on board,
They found
and none of them matched anything.
yeah, and they were all they. I think the exact number was around like 38, 39 unidentifiable fingerprint.
66.
66. Holy shit! So double that almost. So
That's a ton.
the and I feel like if this was going to be a pulled off caper, there'd have to be an accomplice. Otherwise, you jump out of a plane and you survive this insane jump. Now you're just in the woods with a whole bunch of money and nowhere to
Yeah,
go. So there had to be. I feel like there had to be somebody that picked him up or dropped him off. Like, I guess
right.
how would you do it?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, how would I do it now? Like, much different than was available in the
It's
70s, right?
it's
I
the
didn't have
70s. Yeah,
GPS on my cell phone, right?
yeah.
Like, how would you even communicate with someone where you were going to land on this flight between Seattle and what was it, like Nevada that he jumped out?
I don't know.
Uh,
Yeah, it seems a little. It's. I don't know. It's a little sus. Like I feel like it was almost an inside job. It seems like somebody somewhere, somebody he was cooperating with somebody, right? Whether
Yeah,
it was somebody in the airline or somebody FBI. I don't know. Like he couldn't have been working alone.
there
but
are.
but but
Go for it.
also due to the like, it's such a hard, like it's a huge area for them to have to search, right? Like and once again, they didn't have all the technology we have now. Like they couldn't pinpoint exactly where it was he was landing, because I mean, like they said in multiple places, like they couldn't track like what the speed was or what the altitude was precisely at the moment of his jump. So it just left it a really broad area that he could have landed. So, I mean,
I,
he really could have died, and we might not still not have found him.
yeah, and the FBI director who was leading the case legit has told multiple interviewers, like, "Well, why didn't we find a body?" And his only response is like, "Try going out in those woods and
Mm-hmm.
seeing
Yeah,
what you could find." Not to mention, 50 years later, like they're not gonna find shit. Animals will get to his
Yeah.
corpse. Yeah. Um, I'm going to read this little excerpt right here. This is on Britannica. Many speculated that Cooper, who was outfitted in a business suit, trench coat, and loafers, did not survive. At that altitude, the winds were more than 200 miles, 322 kilometers per hour, and the parachute he used could not be steered. In addition, he would have landed in a rugged, heavily wooded area. After years of dead end leads, investigators received a break in 1980 when the boy found $5,800 in cash that was buried along the Columbia River north of Portland, some 20 miles from Ariel. Uh, the serial numbers of all the money, all of which were $20 bills, matched those of the ransom. So, first off, did the money get buried like he landed, or do you think over 9 years over time it got sand or dust got over it. Is what
Yeah,
I'm
they
thinking.
just deteriorate. I mean, even the ones that 8-year-old boy Brian Ingram found were all deteriorated and like shredded up and stuff. So, I mean, we just said what would happen to a body over that amount of time. Like some little pieces of paper aren't going to hold up much better.
No, and you're right. They what I feel like doesn't help in this is I don't know if you guys have like composite sketches up of him at all or what he looked like.
Yeah.
He looked like a very just average looking dude. Like, like legit one of those faces that
Oh yeah.
anybody could have. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks just like
Like,
Tom Hiddleston.
Exactly. Tom
Oh
Hiddleston
wait,
and
that's a picture I pulled up of him just of his DB
Oh,
Cooper.
Marvel.
Had to bring it back.
Always, man. Oh god. Before we go a little deeper into this, I kind of wanted to get into a list of who they suspect and what they. That's kind of what I was planning for the second half. But so I will, before we get into each individual suspect, we'll take a little bit of a break from our totally real sponsors. So please check them out, and also check out our Patreon, Chaotic Pubcast on Patreon. So catch you later. We'll see you in the second half.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
May I get you something to drink, sir?
Oh, if I may, I'll take a bourbon and soda. Light on the rocks.
Right away, sir.
This summer, hear the story of the International Man of Mystery.
Miss, here you go.
What's this?
You might want to read that. I have a bomb.
A man that pulled off the unthinkable.
Well, my friends, it's been quite fun. It's time for me to take my exit.
Oh shit. Fuck. Yeah. Oh man. What are we gonna do? Todd, get over here. Look at this. He's dead. Bodies, guts flying. What do we do? We signed him on for like 5 different movies. What the fuck are we gonna do?
I don't know. It's for the History Channel. Nobody watches that shit anyway. Just wrap it up.
Oh, Jesus Christ. DB Cooper will not be returning in DB Cooper 2.
Welcome back to the second half of our DB Cooper special episode of the Chaotic Pubcast. Big thank you to our sponsors there. They are really... how did they know what we were talking about on this episode?
I don't know. I really don't know. Did you tell
I
him?
think.
No.
Did they pay us to do this episode specifically?
Probably. It's the DB Cooper
They
sponsored
must have
episode.
they must have dreamwalked into one of us and
Wait a second. Wait a second. Did they pay like at the 11th hour with unmarked bills?
All of the serial numbers match up.
Like, ugh.
Oh god. I just can't get over how every commercial just for some reason sounds like me. I can't get over.
I don't know. I always wonder about that, but I was like, I don't question our sponsors, so
Yeah. Don't ask questions. They'll put you on some sort of list, I heard. So all right. So we're getting DB Cooper. We talked a little bit about the initial our initial thoughts on the case. Now the suspect list for this case is ridiculous. Like there, even the list that are a majority of the people are listed online. There are some that are that are not popular listed online that have come forward claiming it or speculation of who he could be. So I just wanted to talk about a few of them. One thing that one person we wanted to talk about is this guy Kenneth Peter Christiansen. What a weird name. So with Kenneth, I'm going to hurry read this excerpt for him. In 2003, Minnesota resident Lyle Christiansen watched a television documentary about the Cooper hijacking and became convinced that his late brother Kenneth was Cooper. After repeated futile attempts to convince first the FBI and then the author and film director Nora Ephron, who would make the movie about the case, he contacted a private investigator. Like, this guy really wanted his brother to be DB Cooper.
Like, like his brother was supposed to like leave him something in the will or something if he died, and then he died and didn't. This guy was like, I'm gonna fuck him up even in death. I'm gonna make sure he gets penalized to the fullest for this crime that he had no part of.
You'd probably end up being famous if you were like related to DB Cooper, I imagine.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
probably.
So, yeah. Next on the list, I got Brian Jack Kofelt, which is just a total criminal name, in my opinion. And he is a criminal. He was a con man and an ex-convict.
Wow.
And purported government informant who claimed to have been the chauffeur and confidant of Abraham Lincoln's last undisputed descendant, great grandson Robert Todd Lincoln Beckwith. Oh Lord. He was claiming he was Cooper and attempted through an intermediary, a former cellmate named James Brown, to sell his story to a Hollywood production company. So yeah, this is just a bunch of jackasses who want to be famous at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's dude, and that's like what we were talking about earlier. Like, people will just throw themselves to the lions just for their 5 minutes of fame. It's like just wild. You were talking about the money in the first half, and there's like guys that came forward with they counterfeited bills with the serial numbers just to try to like get a story of them, right? Like, it's so stupid.
Wait, you mean to tell me they went through the process of making counterfeit bills?
Yeah,
for the purpose of getting a story out of this. At that point, why not just use the counterfeit?
Use the money.
That's like an over convoluted plan if I've ever seen one.
Imagine getting arrested or getting in trouble with the FBI for counterfeiting money, and it wasn't even money you were trying to spend or use.
Oh man. Another one of the more popular ones is this guy named Walter R. Recca. He was a former military paratrooper and intelligence operative. He was proposed as a suspect by his friend Carl Lauren in 2018. In 2008, Recca told Lauren via recorded phone call that he was the hijacker. Whatever the motives would be for it, I just don't know. But he gave Lauren permission in a notarized letter to share his story after his death. Is that overselling the part? In my opinion, like overdoing it a little bit. It's just like, oh, and I got it notarized, and I just don't think somebody who's broken the law in that way would bother to get a notary for it. So that was the most like, but I think that one has actually been debunked recently. Yeah. But and then here's one that this one's topical. William J. Smith. Not the Smith.
Well, that's not the Smith that got. Oh, not okay. Not.
Yeah, not Slapparazzi, but let's see here. What a weird name for a newspaper. The Oregonian, the Oregon newspaper published an article proposing William J. Smith of Bloomfield, New Jersey as a suspect. The article is based on research conducted by an Army data analyst who sent his findings to the FBI in mid-2018. Smith, a New Jersey native, was a World War II veteran. After high school, he enlisted in the United States Navy and volunteered for combat air training. According to the analysts, aluminum spiral chips found on the clip-on tie could have come from locomotive maintenance facility. Smith's information about the Seattle area might have come from his close friend Dan Clare, who was stationed at Fort Lewis during the war. Yeah, I don't think this guy's it, but I wish I could find the information on this flight attendant guy I was looking at though. Like, his case was just insane. His face matched the description. He had paratrooper experience. He knew about planes. What if you do a caper for what in our time would be $1.3 million? How do you even go about spending the money, because like
Yeah.
it's the problem with like any art thief or any big heist like that. Like I feel like you're just stealing it to be like, huh, you know.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier. This could have just been like I just want to do something really badass. Like it maybe not even so much about the money. Um, I don't know. It's hard to say, but also, like this wasn't incredibly uncommon during that time. Now he is the only one that was never caught, right? But this happened quite a bit, and in his case in particular, um, kind of like set everything into motion of um, putting a little more scrutiny on airlines, right, or public flying. The following year after this happened, so this would be 1972. There was 31 airline hijackings.
Jesus.
31.
Yes.
In
And
1972 alone?
yeah, and 19 of those 31 were for the specific purpose of extorting money.
Wow.
And in 15 of those, the hijackers also demanded parachutes.
Oh
so
man.
so so it was like 1973 whenever the FAA like really cracked down.
Yeah, there's
Wow.
this because in 1972, like a year after this hijacking, there's this guy named Richard McCoy Jr. who did an almost identical hijacking.
Yeah.
Jumped out of the plane, survived, and they caught him like 2 days later. In yeah, but the FBI did suspect it was him. That this guy was DB Cooper because he does kind of look like the description, but he had an alibi where he was actually eating dinner with his family at the time, and then like so it was most definitely a copycat
Yeah.
situation. Um,
So after all the craziness of 1972, following, and then those following the DB Cooper case, and they still hadn't caught him at that point. They never did. Uh, in 1973, that's when they like put their foot down, right? And they started searching for everything. They put in the metal detectors, all that. And so in 1973, there was only 2 hijackings, both by psychiatric patients. One of which was just trying to crash the airliner into the White House to kill Nixon.
Wow. Wow.
Oh Lord. I just with the McCoy dude though, it's like, and that being a copycat, can you and his alibi, I could just picture that conversation of him just sitting at dinner, like in the 70s where they all eat dinner and the TV's in the dining room and DB Cooper comes on and like his wife's like yakking his ear off, and then just in his head he's like, how badass would it be?
Just drops the silverware on the china. Dang.
Oh man.
That's funny.
So if I were to go about if I were to personally hijack a plane in the 70s, I think I would honestly go in the same direction that DVD Cooper. I would dress myself to the nine. I would make sure I'm drinking something really cool like whiskey like he did. Gotta smoke a cigarette even if you don't smoke. And then he had sunglasses. Dude, he was this at this point the Giant of Kandahar is more real than this to me. It feels like.
But I love how it was just playing the part. Like this wasn't him because he had like the clip-on tie and shit. He
Yeah.
probably like drank the whiskey and he was like,
Maybe he was a
he's
man
used
in
to,
black.
like, some old beers and shit.
He was
What
one
if
of
he
those
like
famous,
slid the?
huh?
What's that, Jay?
I was gonna say, what if he's one of those infamous men in black that just disappears, or that nobody knows where they come from?
Oh, and then he did that to make the Polybius machine.
Yeah, he used
In
his
the
money
urban
to build it.
legends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was probably the one that was stabbed by the Giant of Kandahar.
Oh my God! There's a
It's all connected.
conspiracy. There's an unsolved urban legend
We just solved
cinematic
it.
universe there.
We just solved
Yeah.
it. All of them.
What if,
You're
God,
welcome.
Thank you. You're welcome, internet. God, how wild would it be if there was like an urban legend like Avengers? Welcome to the team. We got DB Cooper, Sasquatch, the Giant of Kandahar.
and the Polybius
So
machine.
you want to know that you want to know the craziest
Say
part,
it, yeah.
man, of all this? Do you want to go really conspiracy with this case? So, Earl J. Cossey, okay? He was the owner of the skydiving school that furnished the 4 parachutes that were given to Cooper. He was found dead in his home in 2013, and it was ruled a homicide with blunt force trauma to the head. And no one knows why.
Wait, how much time passed?
So that was 71 to 2013, so almost 40 years.
So
42.
wait, so in 2013, this guy was found dead.
Yes.
Riddle me this. So DB Cooper survives the jump, okay, and then Cossey, maybe this is before like the statute of limitations happened and everything, was like, hey, I'm gonna out you. I'm gonna out you. Like maybe he had information, and then this DB Cooper guy had that whole moment like in John Wick where he like took like a sledgehammer to the ground and like got all his gear out, like gets the clip-on tie, the suit,
Yep.
totally goes and John Wicks him.
So I think DB Cooper. I think DB Cooper might have survived, right? And then been like, "Fuck, I can't spend any of this money," and so he had to just ditch it, right? Because he knew he'd get caught. But he cut out a piece of that parachute, carried it around with him for the rest of his life, just to remind him of the badassery that he pulled. Sitting down in a nice little cafe, and who walks in? Mr. Earl J. Cossey. Earl J. Cossey sees him, finish his coffee, pull out this little shred of parachute, a single tear comes down his cheek, and that's when Cossey approaches him.
Oh
and
my
says,
god!
I know where that parachute came from.
Oh my god, that would be wild, and it totally didn't happen.
Shut up, Ryan. Don't talk.
That totally didn't happen, man. But if Hollywood made a DB Cooper movie,
Why does that sound like the name of a car?
I'm open. I'm open to write your script.
Yeah, well, there's Mini Cooper, so
True. I think
Mini
Aston Martin.
Cooper, yeah.
Aston Martin has a car called I forget what it's called, but it's DB something.
DB Bugatti.
So
Or
the whole thing with his name,
huh?
Because what was the name that he paid for the ticket with or whatever? It was like Dan Brown.
It was Dan Cooper. He put
Dan Cooper. Not Dan Brown.
DBS.
This isn't related to this isn't related to the Da Vinci Code. Dan Cooper, and then like a newspaper got his name wrong or something and said DB Cooper, and people just ran with that. And then even the newspaper was like, "Oh, he screwed up," and people were like, "Nope, it's DB Cooper now."
Has anybody speculated what the B stands for? Does anybody know?
Badass.
Dan.
Oh, I have his Wikipedia pulled up. Let's see.
That's all it says on the name.
Actually, just as Dan Cooper.
A newspaper screwed it up.
I guess it was just Dan Cooper didn't sound cool, but DB Cooper did.
Yeah, I just love like when you look. Is DB Cooper based on a real story? Yes, this is totally real, and I'm not saying that ironically. God, I say that a lot in real life. So my thoughts, if I were I don't think he survived because it was -7 degrees when he jumped out of that plane in a rainstorm with a -69-degree wind chill factor, and he couldn't steer with the parachute going into a wooded area. So I think he either froze to death before impact or he just died personally. So that's kind of my speculation on old DB Cooper. But what I do think it's kind of funny how he's become kind of like a folk hero for doing something completely horrible and awful. People view him as almost a Robin Hood, but but as I always say in these episodes, this story has made the world a bit cooler, in my opinion.
Yeah,
we have people
like,
willing to hold the airlines ransom and then fly out of the freaking jump out of the flying plane.
He deserves the 200,000. If he survived, you deserve it. Like,
yeah, but that's crazy, right? Like I just told you about how all those other people were doing it around that same time too. There was a slew of them. But this guy probably like crashed into a tree or something and died, and we still haven't found him, and that makes him the folk hero just because he didn't get caught.
I don't think he was the first plane hijacker either. Were there
No.
hijackings? Yeah,
Yeah.
he just. There's a saying that I really love. It's like you don't have to be the best at what you do, but if you do it with conviction and flair, it's impossible to be ignored. So like he did it with conviction and flair, like, and
It was definitely flair.
maybe he just got super lucky and everything just happened to go right, and it was a horrible plan from the beginning, but he did it. He pulled it off. DB Cooper, if you're out there, which you're probably dead by now, good job, man. Good job.
Thanks for the ad.
I hope you
Thanks
listen
for
to
the
this.
ad.
I hope you listen to this.
Oh my god, what if it was DB Cooper who did the actual ad?
Hi guys, I'm DB Cooper.
It's a really cool story. I've always liked like unsolved mystery type things because it's just fun to speculate like what might have happened. I'm glad you brought this one up. Like I said, I remember like hearing about this before. And, you know, honestly, I might have just heard it in Loki. I don't know. But I mean, it's just crazy all the cool shit you could do in the past. That like as technology is advanced, it just keeps us from doing. I would love to go back to like Western times and you know ride a horse and shoot guns and stuff. But I'd probably just die of like scabies or something.
So, scabies. I do agree with you, Ryan. Like, I think that that technology, while as cool as it is that we've had all this thing, it does make the world kind of lame in a way. You know, just like where everything is just so globalized. There's no real cool capers anymore. There's no like everybody can found through facial recognition through stuff like there's just this could not fly today. No pun intended.
I see what you did there.
and Christina's chiming in.
But yeah, no, and that was my real takeaway from this is just like every like law we have in place or every like security function that we've implemented through technology or whatever was all because of some badass who did something really cool.
Yeah, and not to mention, I mean, I don't want to bring the mood down. 9/11 to do a lot of amped up the security too, but DB Cooper was the first. Not badasses at all. Fuck those guys.
Yeah.
DB Cooper didn't hurt anyone but himself.
Yep.
He was a gentleman. He was very polite through the entire time. He
made sure that the rest of the crew or the rest of the passengers didn't even know. He was like, "Hey, just read this note. Don't make a scene. We don't want to scare people."
Cool Cooper.
Cool Cooper.
Are we idolizing villains now?
He just passed. He passed her a note. It was like, "I need $200,000, and everyone on the plane gets a Capri Sun."
And the movie today, it's got to be something really cool. Shows up with cigarettes, Capri Suns. Cool Cooper. Jay, did you have any final thoughts before we start winding down?
If you're out there, DB Cooper, good on you, man. Good on you for making it this long. You've avoided. You successfully committed a crime.
But DB Cooper, man, if you're out there, throw away that little scrap of parachute. We all know what happened. You don't have to tell yourself.
Yeah, man. Just wipe that single tear down and let it go. You got away with it, man.
Yeah.
You did good.
Also, Z, I think you're DB Cooper.
You think I'm DB?
Yeah, you look like him.
It's a little before his time.
A little before my time, yeah. But you know, I mean, unless I've just been I'm secretly immortal, and I haven't told you guys.
You did walk away with $200K. You could have done something to your body.
If I walked away with $200K, I probably wouldn't be. Well, actually, no. That'll probably get you like a Snickers bar these days. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, I think that's all I had on DB Cooper. Did you guys have anything else you want to do before we start? Before we wind this down?
No. I think you covered it all pretty well.
All right, guys, thank you for listening. We could have talked for hours about DB Cooper. I have a lot of information about the suspects we could have gone into. If you do want to look into more of this story, there are a ton of resources on this guy for free. You can find a few of them on YouTube. You can watch the BuzzFeed Unsolved edition of it. There are a few books out there. There's the Mystery of DB Cooper, the Skyjacker that got away. There's an HBO. There's one on HBO. Check those out if you are really interested in diving into this story. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, Chaoticpubcast. And if you want to join our Discord, hit us up on Twitter. Our Twitter names are right below us. Cool. And as always, thank you very much. And before I forget, join our Patreon. Okay. Also, we're making merch. What the merch is going to be?
It's up on the screen right now. You can see it with your eyeballs. If you're watching on YouTube, in front of our faces is what some of the merch will look like. It'll be live on the store any day now if it's not already. But you're looking at it. Keep looking. Doesn't that look cool, man? Look at that shit.
Look at that. Look.
I like the one on the left. Oh,
God
shit.
damn, now we gotta make two?
Now we gotta make two?
Oh, I mean, I assume there's going to be one on the left, one on the center, one on the right. So now we got to make 3.
Damn it! It's okay. We already got the shirt con. We already have 2. We got Cool Kang and Cool Cooper now.
Dibs on the Chaotic Pubcast thong, though.
All right, everybody. You have a wonderful night. Thank you much.
Peace. Sweet.